You know, Matt Taibbi wrote a book called Hate Inc. I don't know if you ever read it. He basically makes the argument that Rachel Maddow is essentially Bill O'Reilly, that they're the same person.
The U.S. government is going to have to either unwind from all of those contracts, or Elon Musk's companies are going to have to unwind from him. This is an untenable reality in national security terms, now that we know what we know about Elon Musk.
And what is that? What do we know?
That he endorsed President Trump.
That he's a genius?
They're very good at making enemies, and then when the enemies they've made treat them poorly, they are shocked.
What happens when a cable news queen, perched atop her multi-million-dollar empire, declares war on a tech titan who builds rockets for a living? You get a firestorm so intense it threatens to burn down the very institution of mainstream news. Rachel Maddow, the face of MSNBC, made a bold move against Elon Musk, but she never anticipated that her attack would trigger a response from two of the most powerful and unpredictable voices in media, creating a takedown so brutal it left her speechless.
Fallout from Joy Reid's firing at MSNBC continues. She signed off from the show for the last time last night. I mean, you know, we are going to miss her in our own special way. And her now former colleague, Rachel Maddow, never one to not be the center of attention if she can find a way of injecting herself into a story, decided to deliver a monologue aimed directly at her bosses. And this is the theme of what we saw.
It all started with a stunning declaration on live television. In the middle of her broadcast, Rachel Maddow aimed her sights directly at Elon Musk. She wasn't just criticizing his tweets or his politics. She was calling for the U.S. government to sever its ties with his companies. She argued that the Defense Department and NASA needed a new arrangement for their rockets, implying that the multi-billion-dollar contracts held by SpaceX were a national security threat. This was an unprecedented attack, a media figure attempting to dismantle the industrial foundation of one of the world's most influential innovators. For a moment, it seemed like a power play from a media giant who believed she was untouchable. But that single move was the spark that lit a fuse she never saw coming.
Maddow calling for Elon Musk contracts to be taken away. It's the most bananas thing ever.
The Defense Department and NASA are going to need a new arrangement for all their rockets and for all the multi-billion-dollar contracts Elon Musk's companies have with the U.S. government.
Yeah. Literally one of the greatest geniuses in human history. A guy who's simultaneously landing rockets, not just shooting them, but landing them, having them getting caught by robots in the sky. Then you have Tesla. Then you have Starlink. Then you have the Boring company. I mean, the guy's simultaneously running all these different things.
I bet Rachel.
The first explosion came from the untamed wilderness of the podcast jungle, home to Joe Rogan. Rogan, a man who has built an empire on brutal honesty and relentless curiosity, heard Maddow's claims and essentially laughed them out of the room. He didn't just disagree. He painted a picture of absurdity. On one side, you had Maddow, a talking head reading from a script. On the other, you had Elon Musk, a man Rogan described as one of the greatest geniuses in human history, simultaneously landing rockets on drone ships, revolutionizing electric vehicles, and building satellite internet for the world.
Worse than bad, no matter who replaces them. That feels indefensible, and I do not defend it.
And I do not defend it. It feels indefensible. And I do not defend it. Okay, she really is one of the most, maybe, is she the most annoying people on television. She oozes sanctimony and self-righteousness. And here's the real capper. She took her boss's faces and rubbed them in shit last night. That's what she did.
For whatever reason, hardcore lesbians, when they want to be taken seriously, they dress like a man. And they dress like a man in a business outfit.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Look how she dresses. She puts a suit jacket on. I'm serious. I'm here for the meeting. I'm here to explain things to you people.
Rachel Maddow gets paid $100,000 a day. Like, to me, I don't know. That's a lot of money.
Good for her.
That's a good.
You buy a lot of man suits with.
Rogan's critique was raw and visceral. He mocked Maddow's sanctimonious delivery and her carefully curated on-air persona. famously joking about her preference for man suits to appear serious. He pointed out the sheer insanity of a political commentator who he claimed earns a staggering $100,000 a day, trying to cancel the contracts of a man literally advancing the human species. His approach wasn't academic, it was a reality check from the court of public opinion, and his millions of listeners were the jury. But while Rogan was landing heavy blunt force blows, another critic was sharpening a scalpel.
Rachel Maddow trying to say what pains us the most is not what happens to us is a lie too. The reason she won't give the $4 million or the $2 million to save any of those jobs, and she doesn't have to cut him a check. She could actually just take it out of her current salary. You know why she won't? Because she's got bills to pay and her lifestyle is too important to her. Rachel Maddow currently, according to my calculation, and I'm sure it's much more, has a $10 million penthouse, I say, on the Upper East Side, where her neighbors are Jodie Foster and Barry Manilow at some point.
That critic was Megyn Kelly, the former primetime news anchor with a lawyer's mind for dissecting arguments. Where Rogan attacked the absurdity of Maddow's claims, Kelly methodically dismantled her credibility as a journalist. She approached the situation not with outrage, but with cold, calculated precision. Kelly reminded her audience of Maddow's track record, bringing up her role in pushing the now-debunked Russiagate hoax for 3 dim years. She pointed to the Steele dossier, a collection of fabricated claims paid for by a political campaign, which Maddow had presented as bombshell reporting.
About what did Rachel Maddow ever apologize for telling everybody that if you get the COVID vaccine, you're never going to get COVID? It won't. The virus stops with you.
No, never.
Never.
Yeah.
No one ever. It's just. It was not true at the time. There was no evidence to support it at the time. It's pure propaganda. And she said it. The Russiagate hoax. For 3 fucking years, they said that he was Putin's toy.
Yes.
And that Putin had him compromised. The Steele dossier.
Steele dossier was completely fabricated by a lawyer at Perkins Coie, who was paid by the Clinton campaign.
Kelly's most damaging critique centered on Maddow's infamous claim that the COVID vaccine would stop the virus completely, a statement that was not supported by evidence even at the time. Kelly labeled it for what it was, pure propaganda. She exposed Maddow's reporting not as journalism, but as a performance, a carefully constructed narrative designed to elicit fear and outrage while conveniently ignoring facts that didn't fit. Her takedown was a masterclass in exposing the difference between reporting the news and manufacturing a story.
You see Caitlyn Jenner teasing Mark Cuban about transitioning?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
I mean, Caitlyn Jenner's based.
Yeah, but that is actually hilarious when someone who has transitioned is teasing Mark Cuban about transitioning.
I mean, it is weird how much he looks like Rachel Maddow. I mean, like he's using the same glasses. Did he,
I don't know why
did he go
he put those
klepto and
glasses
steal her glasses or something? Because they look exactly the same.
He's worth a lot of money. Why would he buy those stupid glasses? You can get some cool ass glasses. Yeah. Well, it's like I'm serious because I don't even care what I look like. I'm just wearing these glasses because I'm intelligent.
But why did it look exactly like Rachel Maddow's glasses?
That's like what they probably sent him. He doesn't stick to the narrative. Here's the glasses.
Yeah.
Individually, Rogan and Kelly's critiques were powerful, but together they created an unintentional and unwinnable two-front war for Maddow. Imagine a fortress being attacked simultaneously by a battering ram and a team of stealthy saboteurs. Rogan was the battering ram, smashing the front gates with common sense and undeniable facts, exposing the hollowness of her arguments to a massive mainstream audience. Kelly was the saboteur, slipping inside the walls to surgically cut the wires of journalistic ethics, revealing that the entire structure was built on a foundation of bias and misinformation.
Overblown claims look like an amateur sketch.
You also learn a lot if you watch MSNBC. I don't know if you're aware, but their reaction, you're not gonna be able to believe this, to the Friday Oval Office situation was to claim that Trump is weirdly and problematically tied to Russia. I'll give you just a little taste of Rachel Maddow's monologue on it last night.
Imagine if a foreign adversary, imagine if the Putin government somehow could just do a thought experiment. Imagine they could somehow exert control or influence over the government of the United States. What do you think the Putin government would have the U.S. government do? if he could control it. What kind of headlines would you expect to see about the operations of our government under that kind of a scenario? And what would you expect the news out of the Oval Office and the White House to look like on a day like today?
Fake drama.
Megyn Kelly, on the other hand, is the exact opposite.
Maddow was left with no defense. She couldn't dismiss Rogan as a fringe figure. He was too popular. She couldn't dismiss Kelly as an uninformed critic. She knew the industry inside and out. One attacked the what, the other attacked the how, and together they left her entire platform looking like a house of cards in a hurricane. The result was an immediate and deafening explosion across the internet. Clips of Rogan's blunt commentary and Kelly's sharp analysis went viral. Hashtags trended. Memes depicting Maddow's narrative crumbling spread like wildfire. The digital world was on fire with the takedown, and everyone was talking about it. But from Maddow's camp, there was only silence, no response, no clarification, not even a subtle tweet. It was the silence of a queen trapped in her castle, watching as her kingdom was dismantled stone by stone, knowing she had no army left to defend it. This silence spoke louder than any counter-argument ever could. It was the sound of defeat.
Emotions and to steer viewers toward a predetermined conclusion.
Here's Rachel Maddow with her typical sanctimonious, I'm sorry to have to bring you this, but here's the latest of these terrible people. This is what happened with these disgusting opponents. Watch. Here she is.
This is him today twice throwing something that looks like what is politely called the Roman salute. And maybe this is not what he meant when he did it. Who among us knows what is in the hearts of men? But the Roman salute is a thing. And that is what it looks like Elon Musk was doing, which added a nice blood-curdling chill to the day for many people today. Go ahead. He does it twice. And again, maybe that's not what he meant. Maybe he doesn't know what that is. That happened today.
That happened today. Who among us knows what's in the hearts of men? Who among us does know, Rachel?
There's this one unforgettable moment where...
But the story goes deeper than just a few bad takes. The critiques peeled back a layer to reveal a perceived hypocrisy that struck a nerve with the public. While Maddow spent her nights on television decrying the powerful and privileged, it was revealed that she herself was living a life of extraordinary wealth. The detail that caught fire was her $10 million penthouse on the Upper East Side, where her neighbors included celebrities like Jodie Foster. For many, this shattered her image. How could someone earning a reported $30 million a year, living in one of New York's most exclusive buildings, authentically claim to be a voice for the common person? It painted a picture of a media figure who performed a role for her audience, only to retreat into a world completely detached from the people she claimed to represent.
Armchair media critics sharpened their keyboards to join the chorus.
Can I tell you, that was a disgusting display by both women on the set. I would vote for Ron DeSantis over Joe Biden any day of the week. I've made that clear, okay? I tell you what my bias is. When I sat across from Ron DeSantis, I pressed him. I pressed him on the weaknesses in his arguments, things that he said that were inconsistent, positions he had that would fall apart potentially if you really, drilled down, and he stood his own. That's what a journalist does. That's what your obligation is as a member of the media. You failed, Rachel Maddow. You failed. I don't care how much they give you, $30 million a year. You're not worth 30 cents. That was an embarrassment. You fell down on the job, you embarrassed yourself and your network, and you ceded the entire discussion to a dishonest broker who set us down this disgusting path that we're now on, where everybody denies everybody's the real president. Shame on you both.
Ultimately, this entire saga is more than just a story about a cable news host getting called out. It reveals a seismic shift in the media landscape. The old guard, represented by figures like Maddow, is losing its grip. For decades, they controlled the narrative from their polished studios, believing they were immune to accountability. But now, the power has shifted. The new media, the podcasters, the independent journalists, and the unfiltered truth tellers are the new gatekeepers of accountability.
Russia, 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 Russia.
Would have been nice to win the election. Didn't. Okay. Time to save the country.
She is stomach turning, isn't she? It could be. You're in danger. What are you going to do with your 10 houses and your tens of millions? My God, you better start preparing. You should start getting the medication kits and the food right now. Store away. Trump is coming for you, Rachel. Jeez, could be fun. Could be fun. Oh, yeah. Who would ever know what it's like for MSNBC to be in the opposition? Oh, wait. Russia, 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 Russia. We know your trick, Madam Pirate, when you're in the opposition, your nobility in your efforts to save the country. You fucking lie. That's what you do. You lie every day. And then you play the victim. What a ridiculous person.
This takedown was a lesson for everyone. It showed that in the digital age, no one is too big to be challenged. The combination of Joe Rogan's raw populist critique and Megyn Kelly's sharp ethical dissection created a perfect storm that Maddow couldn't weather. It proved that the public is tired of being fed narratives wrapped in fear and spin. The old rules are dead. The question is no longer who has the loudest voice, but who is brave enough to hold that voice accountable.
And no one, even someone calling herself a journalist, will even bother to challenge you on it. And instead, they'll joke about how they're going to go shop for a new wardrobe, which, by the way, Rachel Maddow does desperately need.